it's Tim here from My Engineering. Today, Derek and I are going to do a demonstration to show you how we can use the Artec Leo scanner and Artec Studio to measure a pump base to make sure that everything is level. So I'll show you here what we've set up. So we've set up a mock pump base in our shop. There's a couple of plates that we put on the floor that we've marked with different numbers. So we've got number 1 here, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've set up a tripod with a plumb bob in the center. And so what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna try and figure out the relative position of each pad from one to the next. And then we're going to shim them to adjust the height and try and get it level. So anyways, we'll get Derek to start scanning. So he's gonna start by scanning the plumb bob, and what the purpose of the plumb bob is essentially to get a direct vertical axis that we can use as a reference point. And we'll use that as a datum to locate all of the different pump base locations. Okay, so it looks like he's completed the scan. Just check it out here. You have the plumb bob and all 4 of the bases. A couple sections in the middle that are missing, but that's okay, that doesn't really matter. So we'll rename the project. Call it Pump Base Original maybe. Yeah, cool. Now we'll take that and we're going to transfer that to Artec Studio and work from there. Okay, so we've imported the scan from Leo to Artec Studio. We've then meshed that scan file and we reapply the texture. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a cone on the, or centered on the plumb bob. So let's start with that. Perfect. And so we're now going to align that cone to the origin of this scan. So we'll set that to be Y. So now our Y axis is centered on the cone. Okay, so now that we've set our origin, we're going to take measurements from these 4 pads, and that's going to give us some information about where they're located. So let's do that. So start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now on the screen there, you'll see that there is the Y measurement is the one we're the most interested in. So what this is showing us is the distance from the center of the cone to the points that we've selected on each pad. So we're going to take those measurements then and we're going to put those into Excel. So we'll start with the first one, which is minus 73.38. Second one, minus 81.14. Third one is minus 84.77. And the last one is minus 69.63. So what we've done here is we've picked our 0.1 as being our datum. So we want to align each of the other pads relative to that base. So what this is showing us here when we adjusted everything to the datum is that our pump base 2 is minus 7.76 millimeters, or it's slightly below pump base 1. Pump base 3 is minus 11.39, and pump base 4 is actually slightly higher at 3.75. So what we'll do is, I think for the purpose of this demonstration, we will align pump bases 2 and 3. We're going to shim those and try and get that a little bit closer to 0. So anyways, we'll continue this video in a second. Okay, so we did the Artec Studio work, we took our measurements. So what we ended up doing for bases 3 and bases 2 is we took some stacks of paper, which were roughly the thickness that we would need in order to get those level, not exactly, but close. And we didn't adjust base 4 at all. We just left this one in its place that it was before. So we're going to rescan this and then take new measurements based off of the shims. Okay, there we go. We've captured the new base here, and so we'll bring that back into Artec Studio and continue from there. Okay, so we followed the same procedure for the second scan after we shimmed it as we did with the first scan. We aligned the cone on the center of the plumb bob to the y-axis and meshed it. Now we've picked our points at the top of all of the pump base pads. So we now have our measurements again relative to the cone. So we input that into our Excel sheet. And so what we found here is that pump base 2, after we've shimmed it, we now have a difference of 0.049 millimeters. So we got that one very, very close. Pump base 3, that one, we adjusted it slightly too high. So now pump base 3 is actually sitting slightly higher than pump base 1. And we didn't touch pump base 4. So you'll notice that some of the measurements, the distance relative to the cone, changed from the first scan to the second scan. That's because when we fit the cone to the plumb bob, it would have been slightly different from the first one to the next. That doesn't affect the relative position though of the pump bases from one to the next. And the reason that pump base 4, even though we didn't touch that one, is showing that it's 1.97 millimeters higher than the original scan was because we weren't super precise with where we picked our points from pump base 1 to pump base 4. We just used those little stickers and kind of picked an arbitrary point on those stickers. We could have done a little bit better and actually selected the exact same point, and then we probably would have seen almost no difference. So anyways, this concludes our video on how we can use the Artec Leo scanner to measure and shim pump bases to get them nice and precise and level. And if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer them.